the latest news concerning Ukraine. At the Munich conference, the West is preparing for a long-term war and is aimed at defeating Russia. Can you believe that? Macron of France and Scholz of Germany called on countries that have pledged to send tanks to Ukraine to do so as soon as possible. Support Ukraine in every possible way with the ultimate goal of defeating Russia. However long it takes for this to happen, Western leaders decided today at the Munich Security Conference, which is being held in Germany in the city from Friday 17 to and Sunday February 19, so it finishes tomorrow. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, from the floor of the Munich Security Conference, called on countries that can deliver tanks to Ukraine to really do it. He said, "We will continue to support Ukraine as long as necessary." Scholz emphasized, pointing out that we must be prepared for a long war. At the same time, he called on everyone who has the ability to deliver tanks to Ukraine as soon as possible. While addressing Moscow, he said that revisionism cannot be accepted. Ukraine is more united than ever, and Europe stands behind the EU membership. The German Chancellor said, also adding that the sooner Putin realizes that his imperialist worldview will not win, the more likely it is that the war will end soon. He clarified that Germany, which, as he pointed out, is now Ukraine's largest supplier of military equipment in continental Europe, will not proceed alone, but always in coordination with its partners and allies. Regarding, however, the possibility of delivering fighter jets to Ukraine, he stated that it is not on the table and that attention should be paid to the implementation of the decisions already made. The Chancellor has repeatedly expressed his belief that support for Ukraine will continue, as will the corresponding support from its citizens, and said that Putin never expected this unity and this solidarity. He made special mention of the strong alliance with the United States. And he said in his speech, "I'm convinced that when we look at our world in 2050, we will see that many powerful nations in Asia, Africa, South America will be certainly a multipolar world characterized by the rule of law and not by revisionism." Macron said, "We are ready for prolonged conflict in Ukraine." Earlier, French President Emmanuel Macron, in his speech at the Munich Security Conference, stressed that the West was ready for a protracted conflict in Ukraine, while urging Kiev's allies to be reliable over time in this war. "We're ready for prolonged conflict, and in saying that, I don't wish it, but above all, even if we don't want to, we must collectively be credible in our ability to withstand this effort," he said. He also urged allies to step up military support for Ukraine to help the country mount a necessary counteroffensive against Russia. What are these people saying? What are they saying? Now, he says we absolutely need to step up our support and effort to the resistance of the Ukrainian people and their military and help them launch a counteroffensive that in itself can enable credible negotiations determined by Ukraine, its authorities and people, the French president said. In addition, he emphasized that he wishes to organize a conference on the air defense of Europe in Paris, mainly with Germany, Italy, and Britain. This conference will allow this issue to be approached from the industrial side, with the participation of all European industrialists who have solutions to offer, but also from the strategic side. And he said, I would say perhaps primarily from the strategic side, including the issues of deterrence, Macron said. He called on Europeans to massively reinvest in their defense to meet the challenges facing the continent. The first call is to call a massively reinvest in our defense if we Europeans want peace, he said. I'd like to know how they're going to do that. I mean, people don't even have money to eat and heat themselves, let alone pay for defense. Now, Zelensky said we need more weapons and we need them now. There is no alternative to the victory of Ukraine. No alternative to Ukraine joining the European Union and NATO. No alternative to the unity of the West vis-à-vis Russia. Ukrainian President Zelensky said in a video call at the start of the Munich Security Conference, and again called on the West to militarily strengthen his country. I was here last year and I hope that they would support us, but the Western countries helped us only when it was already too late, noted Zelensky, who in 2022 had made a dramatic appeal from the floor of the conference just 5 days before the Russian invasion. "There's no alternative. We must continue to fight and defend our country," he said, and repeatedly thanked Olaf and Emmanuel and everyone who supports us, he said. Volodymyr Zelensky ruled out once again the possibility of compromise with Russia, stressing that there is no alternative to the liberation of Ukraine for the good of the entire free world. The Davids of this world must defeat the Goliaths like Vladimir Putin, defeating the Putins of the world, but David did not win only thanks to his determination, but also thanks to his action and thanks to the stone he picked up and threw, and said characteristically again, referring to the need to continue support with military material and asked for greater speed in the delivery of equipment systems and especially modern tanks. And he said otherwise, not even the West will have a minute of peace. The Kremlin could destroy the security of everyone gathered in Munich, he said. The Ukrainian president expressed confidence that the Russian president would continue the attack. He says none of us can understand what Putin is doing, but he is afraid of being humiliated inside his country as well, he said characteristically, while evaluating Belarus's direct involvement in the war as rather unlikely. He said most Belarusians do not want to fight the Ukrainians. It would be a big mistake for Lukashenko of Belarus. He has neither enough strength nor resources, and if they attack us, the soldiers, he won't have enough soldiers, Zelensky said. Problem with sending tanks to Ukraine? It's worth noting, however, that in terms of what the Allies have promised for the Leopard tanks they intend to send to Ukraine, the contributions barely reach the number corresponding to a typical tank battalion. The day before, on Wednesday, February 15, German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius hinted that the Western Allies are struggling to muster 2 full battalions of Leopard 2 tanks to send to Ukraine as promised. Germany and Portugal are the only 2 nations committed to sending the A6 version of the Leopard 2, with 14 of them coming from the former country and 3 from the latter, Pistorius told reporters after meeting his counterparts NATO in Brussels. He said, "We will not reach the size of a battalion," the German defense minister said, according to Bloomberg. Poland has assembled about 30 units of the older A4 version of the Leopard 2, which is almost enough for the typical Ukrainian battalion of 31. However, many of them are in poor condition and need repairs before they can be used, Pistorius said. These tanks will not arrive in Ukraine earlier than the end of April, he said. This is on Newsbreak, and I've translated this for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box